Okay, Jennifer's not on? No?
I'm here, but I'm on my computer and took this opportunity.
It is
Cells.
22, 5 p.m. It's a regular monthly board meeting of the Orangeburg Bridge and Port Authority. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Lawrence, any letters of communication to the board?
No, not this time.
Approval of minutes, October the 11th, 2022, and November the 10th, 2022. Have they been reviewed?
Yes. Mr. King reviewed the October 10th and Ms. Terminelli reviewed the November 10th meeting.
And October the 11th.
Right.
Any corrections needed?
Hope everything was in order in the November minute.
And
Is
the
there a motion
October
to-
minutes are in order.
Thank you. Motion to accept? Made and seconded? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Approved. Reports and presentations. Do you want to go to?
I'd like to get started with the airport. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, we can go with McFarland Johnson if you would like. Is that all right, Chris?
Absolutely.
Yes, we have Jeff Wood, who's the Regional Director of Aviation. Mid-Atlantic region, right? Mid-Atlantic. And Jeff's been kind of the point person on helping us with the design and scope of services that will be required for the airport terminal project, as you all are well aware of. I wanted him here to be able to answer any of your questions. Also, I have left it each one of your, we have the scope of services there, and it goes in pretty good detail about what we're going to agree on, and what we work together on this. So we have a pretty good idea of what, and they do, of what we expect, and kind of spells out the direction we'll go with it.
You seen that?
Floor is yours. We're just doing just a little, I'll bring everybody up to speed, and then we can ask any questions.
Yeah, so well, I guess we'll start with the construction cost for what the state funded, based on what was in the application, is about 21.3 million. The state did adjust the budgets a little bit on us, so we've got a little work to do there in terms of the cost, but I think that we are close enough that we'll get there to deliver the project. The grant, which I think you've seen, lays out a handful of things that must be delivered as part of the project, so we'll certainly deliver those in terms of, it's a broad description of the project in terms of the Great Hall, community space, the renovation of the existing terminal, and the reconfiguration and renovation of the curbside on the terminal.
Mm-hmm.
So this scope of work is for the design phase. So mechanical, electrical, structural, civil, everything that needs to be done. It does include the relocation of the tent with the temporary structure, the fabric structure, because that is in the way of where the new terminal needs to go. We also have in there a sub-consultant, Sealer Engineering, to do a project labor agreement study.
I looked at that. I'm glad to see that in there.
Yeah, and so we'll work with them as soon as contracts in place. We'll get them started. We'll get that study going, and we'll go from there. So I think that there's a lot of advantages to incorporating a PLA into this project. So we'll work through that, and we'll let the study do what it needs to do. So in terms of the schedule, I think everybody's aware that there's a 2-year clock on getting the project designed and constructed. We have not seen the final executed grant from the state yet. We're hearing that will come maybe right around the end of the year, very early January. So for our planning purposes, we're assuming everything's got to be done except for sweeping up by January of 2025. There's a lot of work to do in a pretty short amount of time. The phasing, since it's a terminal and keeping the terminal active, is important. The functional is important, so the construction phasing will be a big part of what we're doing. We are trying to capture as many efficiencies as possible in terms of survey and geotechnical investigations, because we also have the snow removal equipment building going on, so we're using the same set of consultants, trying to get them on site at the same time to save some costs. So where we can find cost savings, we're going to do that. What else can I tell you? The architect is Fenwick McCready Architecture. You may know that they were the architect on the existing terminal, and we've worked with them on a number of projects around the state. They are, this is kind of in their sweet spot in terms of the size of the building and the size of the projects that they like to do. We work with them closely in many places throughout the Northeast. We envision probably 2 bid packages. Probably an early bid package where we would identify the long lead items. The supply chain, as we all know, continues to be a problem. So we're going to try to identify those items early on, get them out to bid, get them ordered, get them here so that they're ready to go for construction. If there's some early construction activities we can do, such as foundation, structural steel, early things that we can do to get that started while we're doing the interior finishes, we will do that. We've still got to flush out some of those details. But we will obviously keep you very closely apprised, work closely with Steve, and happy to come here and brief you on progress as we go. There's a lot of deciding decisions that need to be made, and we'll have to work through all of those. Trying to get as much orange incorporated in the building as we can, because I know Patty likes that. But, you know, the architects will do a great job and we'll make it fit. I think the only real question in terms of the design is where to put the tent. We've looked at a couple of different sites. The one that makes sense from a cost and an operations perspective is right next to the existing terminal, between the terminal and the runway. From an aesthetic perspective, that's probably not ideal. So we'll look at that site. We'll look at a site maybe off to the northeast corner of the one of those 2 places.
Will that involve pouring a whole new pad and everything?
If you, it would if it's gonna be in one location.
Yes.
Right? The other one, we may be able to take advantage of. If you're looking at the terminal, it's to the right,
Yes.
and it would be kind of shoulder right there and probably come out into that parking lot. But, you know, because of it's an arch thing, and then you've got the, we feel it might be really wonky to look at. There's things you can do there, and we're kind of exploring some of that, but there would be a cost savings, and also with utilities and everything being right there. So there's a trade-off with, and the other location just moves it out, but we want to move it out of eyesight line of the new terminal, so that, you know, it just
Right.
catches your eye. So there's kind of 2 kind of issues that we're dealing with each site. But we've kind of explored all of those, and you know, Jeff's working on some possible solutions to that.
Good.
Yeah, I think we'll do some renderings to give you an idea of what it might look like, and then but that'll be one of your early decisions.
Maybe a rough breakout of cost differences. I mean, obviously, we're not going to hold your feet to the fire, but what is the actual savings of
Yeah,
Putting
there-
it-
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
good point.
those in the renderings?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the other concern that we have is that these cost estimates were done in the summer of 2021, 2022 now. So we all know what's happened with construction costs since then. I think they're starting to come back down, so maybe we'll get some relief. But I think one of the early tasks we have to go through is kind of go back through and validate the cost estimate. I do think with the way they've written the grant applications, or the written grants, they're less specific than the previous round that was done back in 2017. So I think there's more flexibility to adjust things as we need to meet the budget. And I also think that, you know, the timing is fortuitous with regard to the federal infrastructure funding. I think that gives a little bit of wiggle room. We get into the problem. So one thing that the state is very clear on, I think, you know, the last round, Steve and Patty have heard all of my stories about the last round. There does seem to be more flexibility with a lot of things, but there is no flexibility on schedule, and there's no flexibility on the grant fund. It is what it is. So we do need to be cognizant of that, of course.
Good.
One thing, just for the boards, that this is for design scope of services, construction inspection, and will be a separate, that'll be a whole separate thing that we're doing. Right now, we're just talking about design. So it isn't all encompassing for the project. They'll be coming back to us with a proposal for construction inspection and building services, or I guess you'd call it.
I would think that's probably like spring or summer timeframe.
Any, I mean, what are we looking at as far as how involving is that?
The construction inspection is going to be intense. I imagine we'll want to have 2 people here full time for the duration of construction. I don't know if that answers your question.
In a way,
It's a lot of work, because there's a lot of work happening in a fairly small space, and you've got an airport terminal that you need to keep operational. There's going to be a lot going on in a very short amount of time. In reality, the construction duration is probably going to be something like 18 months. So that's moving pretty fast. I guess the only other thing I wanted to mention, unless you have questions, is we have applied about $500,000 of infrastructure law to the design in terms of the capital planning. And I think we forecast about 5% of the construction would come from federal infrastructure.
FAA,
Yes, okay. That's money that you have, it's not competitive, it's already been allocated to.
Yeah, you remember those announcements? And we didn't really know how they fit in because we hadn't got the grant yet.
right.
But those were allocated, 10 months ago? Yeah.
Yeah, so that one is just.
Mr. Nemi.
Okay. All right. So, you're obviously well aware of the clock.
Yes.
Do you foresee anything in 23 or 24 that might create an issue as far as timing? I know supply, who knows? But can we get ahead of, maybe we can get ahead of that? Anticipation of issues regarding supply.
So one of the first things we'll do is we'll go through and identify what those long lead items are, and we'll put those out in one of those really big packages.
Okay,
There could still be issues. I think what I took away from the meeting with the state is if we keep them apprised of supply chain issues, they'll work with us on the schedule. So that was a great relief to me. The other concern I worry about is labor availability. There's other things going on. There's other airports doing work, and there's a relatively small pool of contractors up here and a relatively small labor force, and we have a big project on a compressed schedule, so that's something we're going to need to work on. I think a PLA would help us with some of that. So,
yes. What I want to ask. As far as this second part, the construction inspectors, when is that going to come about?
in terms of,
When we actually,
Coming to the board,
yeah,
didn't you say like
I think
summer?
probably late summer, early.
late summer,
Yeah, or I mean, sorry, late spring, early summer.
late spring.
I think we probably need to be pushing dirt, assuming we're starting, assuming the deadline is January 25, we probably need to be moving dirt mid-summer.
Any issue regarding, I'm sure you've looked at it, the line coming from the village of Hubleton to the city?
The
The sewer.
The water.
Yeah,
Would like to get the terminal connected up with the water. So that's going to be a bit of a coordination issue.
we did have that conversation when they first talked about it.
Mhm.
So we're not anticipating any problem with that, are we?
No, originally we were trying to, we wanted to see if Officer Gotchi or Hillton would put in a pump station in their line, but it, due to due to ground conditions, and I think it would have been too deep or something to that effect. So we were hoping that if they could do that, then all we'd be doing is maybe running a gravity line
Right.
right to that, but the elevations didn't allow that. So we're back to when we had planned originally that we would put in a pump station to the north of the terminal. And then the only issue you gotta do is match the pressure of the line with a check valve or something. And it shouldn't be that difficult, and it shouldn't be that far away from, they are gonna be using, there's a right of way for that line that goes right to
Right,
their property. So tying in, I've already talked with the engineers with Hewelton, shouldn't be an issue. It's just a matter of getting that part, but probably the most difficult one would be arranging for the water line.
Yeah, the water is, I think, the biggest technical issue we have, because for fire protection purposes and the water source.
The water's coming the other way on 812, isn't it?
It would come directly, probably we tie in right there by the UFA,
Right,
the other side of 37.
right.
It'd be almost a straight shot, but it's just, we haven't really gone anywhere with that over the years.
There's some coordination we talked about that needs to happen.
But you're aware of that.
We're aware of it, yeah.
And just so I have tried to reach out to, what's the gas company called now?
Liberty.
Liberty. And I have no reason, it's been 3 weeks, I haven't had a response, but I wanted to ask, what would it take to run a natural gas line to the airport, which would solve a lot of issues that we have with with that, and also running generators and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
It would. That's right, they're not out there, are they?
No.
How far do they come out?
I think
812,
I think you'd have to come across 37, almost similar to the water line. If I,
they're that far in?
yeah, they're-
I thought maybe they service the veterinarian place there, but I guess not,
I
eh?
don't believe so. But they may want to come along the roadway just so that they can offer it to other
Right,
people.
right.
I know that. Then, and then should anyone want to use the property that's adjacent to us
Yes,
at any time, having natural gas out there would be
Would be
a
a-
selling point.
right. Good.
I think those went on that issue there.
So I know you have other projects, airport projects going on. Do you think there could be an issue where there's not enough of your staff time to handle everything else you're doing?
We have been planning for this. Same answer I gave Steve, and as you see, as you look through, we brought in a number of subs to add capacity. So we've got a plan that we've been working on for a long time to execute these projects. We're not going to let you down. You're an important client to us, and New York State DOT is an important client to us, and so everybody's going to be happy at the end of this. My promise to you.
Good.
So,
If there's any delays, you don't want to deal with Megan. She's tough.
One thing I wanted to mention too, I'm just aware of this, is we held off on we've got a $1 million grant for security upgrades and a number of things for the airport a year earlier. And we held on to that because some of that required a new generator. Well, let's just say, we did get the grant for the new, we didn't want to put a generator or different security things and have to redo that. So we held on to that. So there was a little bit of advantage of, not all of that money will go to that, because one of them you'll see today where there's truck, it's a patrol truck with a snow plow that is part of that.
Mhm.
But there's a good portion of that that we held off on to use in case we got this project, and it's all working out that way.
I figured about 600,000 of that grant could go towards the terminal. For
Good,
stuff that we have to do anyway.
Right, right.
Security and all that stuff.
good. Anyone else have any questions? Chris, you good?
I'm all set.
Cole?
Speaking of security during the construction phase, how does that work to keep the terminal itself, the operational terminal secure?
Well, everything will be coordinated with TSA, of course, but typically what we would do is put up temporary walls and barricades so people are separated, so the public is separated from the active construction. So I think the biggest challenge from a security perspective is when we have to move the checkpoint and need the TSA equipment, but we've done it before. Obviously, we don't want the public going through the active construction site, so we'll keep it all barricaded.
Okay, Jen,
Yeah, no, thank you. I don't have any questions.
Megan,
Not right now.
Dave,
I'm good.
Tony on?
She's not here at all.
Is,
Jennifer's.
is, newspaper on?
No, I don't see any.
No? Okay. You're gonna give him an opportunity to ask questions of you.
Sure.
If he doesn't already, or he probably will get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Um,
And as always, I'm always happy to come and meet with the board or a subset or a committee or whatever to give
Good,
you an update on what's going on. Anytime, just let me know. And I read up to the student as well.
Good.
Jeff's experience has really helped us a lot, with what DOT's expectations are, but also to help kind of line us up for, we do have a time, but we're working on the finished product. So as we see it, and there's a number of things that he's pointed out from previous experience that really has helped us just to get a focus on the things that we need to focus on. So that's been a great thing to have.
good. This is actually the first, I consider, concrete meeting regarding the project at the airport. And it kind of, hopefully will show people that we're moving ahead on this, trying to make the airport more self-sufficient and allow better use by passengers here in northern New York and southeastern Ontario. So it's good that we're finally publicly moving on this project. So good. So thank you. And you can count on the board being heavily involved.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Good.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Thank you. See everyone soon.
Bye. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay. Presentations and reports. Move on to the committee reports. Finance Committee, Chris?
The Finance Committee met and reviewed the statements for October. And they were straightforward and typical. Everything looks in order for that. We did have a discussion following the meeting in executive session about the budget. And I believe that the budget's on the agenda for later in the meeting. Shall we
Yes.
hold off on discussion of the budget until we get that point on the agenda?
We have to approve it or not under general administration, so we could hold off until then on anything else, if you would like.
Oh, well, I would be prepared to discuss it now. It seems to me as if I were to give a report, I'd be discussing the budget, and then perhaps we could complete our discussion of the budget and move forward. Is that acceptable?
We can do that.
Be a little bit of shuffling perhaps of the agenda.
We can, is there a motion to move general administration item 1 for discussion at this time? It's been moved and seconded.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Dave?
Aye.
Okay. So let's go right into general administration item 1, approval of the 23-24 fiscal budget. Chris, it's all yours.
At risk of telling you things that you already know, folks, I want to try to put this budget presentation in some context. The current draft budget does show a shortfall of revenue versus expenditures of about $3 million. This gap developed over a number of years with two major events, the airport expansion and the pandemic. The airport has run at a deficit for decades. This is nothing new. Other divisions of the authority, the bridge, the port, the industrial park, and the border patrol building generated surpluses that were adequate to support the airport. The airport expansion in 2016, however, generated higher costs to cover new safety and security requirements. The cost of the expansion also established new debt for the authority, increasing the annual debt service for years to come. The expansion envisioned higher revenues from increased flights. And that growth in revenue at the airport, even though it was optimistic and to a degree wishful thinking, was starting to materialize in 2019 and 2020. SkyWest was flying to two popular destinations. They had a 55-passenger plane, and Allegiant made seasonal charter flights to Florida with a 165-passenger plane. They both carried passengers at 60 to 70 to 80% of capacity, depending on the month. When COVID-19 hit, the border closed and air travel collapsed. Allegiant stopped flying from Ogdensburg, just totally stopped. SkyWest fell on hard times. They ultimately canceled their Ogdensburg flights. SkyWest was replaced by Contour, flying a plane that had fewer seats, and they're flying with a lower passenger load to a destination that has not turned out to be a strong attraction. The OBPA revenue from bridge tolls and from air traffic dropped during COVID by 90% plus. Nevertheless, the OBPA maintained both services, keeping the bridge and the airport open and staffed. The OBPA was able to do that by strapping down operating costs, leaving positions open when people left, delaying maintenance and capital purchases, and so on. Very importantly, the U.S. Payroll Protection Program and the Federal CARES Act funding covered many costs during the COVID shutdown. Both programs are wrapping up, though, this year, and they will not help next year. While some OBPA staff positions are now open, several slots were filled. We anticipated the economic recovery after the pandemic. We refilled some positions to capitalize on the recovery. Attracting and retaining business in the industrial park and addressing maintenance for the entire facility were two areas that the board addressed. Nevertheless, revenues from airport fees and bridge tolls are still running below pre-pandemic levels. In addition, the present prediction on shipping through the port for the new season in 2023 is below the actual revenue for the past several years. The best estimate for 2023 is that we won't see any wind projects, that we'll have reduced salt shipments. To produce a balanced budget, we need to increase revenue or cut expenditures. Opportunities to cut expenditures are primarily in personnel. Several positions are now open. Can we leave them vacant? We're committed by union contract to pay raises next year for union employees. We are not committed to raises for non-union employees. Work is ongoing to increase revenues, and we could project higher revenues, but that would be a continuation of optimistic thinking, perhaps wishful thinking, but then we'd have to, in the future, watch to see whether those materialize, being ready to cut costs if they don't. We'd need to decide when to review, when to act. The beginning of the new fiscal year is April 1 through 2023. That's a possible date to do reviews. We are presently budgeted through the end of March. But any cost cutting that we put off will be deeper if we do it later. And any cost cutting that we decided to do now would be perhaps a little less drastic. And I think that it's to the credit of Steve and Patty and the entire staff that we're having this discussion, because in prior years, this budget has come to us with false assumptions in it. And it's part of how we got into a situation where we were short on working capital and we got surprises. But we need to be able to make decisions and prioritize and not kid ourselves. And I put great confidence in the comments and proposals and presentations, but I am not to be a fool. And I ask you to join me. And so I wonder, we could go to the presentation of the budget, or you could ask questions, but at this point, we could discuss the budget some. And give me feedback if I've rattled your cages, guys.
It's beautiful. We did, looking at our income, our bridge revenue, we're going for 80%. 80% of bridge toll income for cars for next year. It's a little aggressive, but we're moving in that direction now. We've broken 60% of pre-pandemic levels. So we're hoping by April of next year, we can make the 80 and 90% for commercial and truck traffic. We're currently at approximately 85% anyway. So I don't think that 90% is at all outrageous.
Just truck traffic hasn't been as volatile as discretionary travel and things like that. So we've been actually, there was times during the pandemic where the truck traffic was even with that. So we feel pretty confident with that one, that 90% would be with that. And we monitor it monthly.
We've probably made, between bridge rental and Commerce Park rental, some more Pollyanna attitude that we will have our tenants remain with us. As Chris mentioned during our finance committee meeting, it's something we should probably look at to give ourselves a buffer in future years of maybe 10% loss of revenue, so that we don't run into a problem if we do have people leave. Other than that, the rental income is solid, and Anthony has been putting in some good increases as people are renewing. He's been able to get a few of our tenants to put in multi-year where they've only been year to year, or they're going, say, in 18 months, so that it would be then in accord with our fiscal year. So things are moving more toward a steady way to look at our rental income. Our fuel sale income, you'll notice, is much, much higher than it was last year. We did not expect the fuel to take off the way it did this year with general aviation and with Contour. So we have increased that, and you will see if you go down to airport expense, aviation fuel has its own line. We will have, according to this budgeted, these two budgeted line items, about a $70,000 profit. We are hoping to make, the intent is to make it at least $1 a gallon when we sell retail. We've had a great little push for us in that Contour is paying for fuel here instead of buying it in Philly, probably more for a delay in taking off more than the better price, which has increased our fuel sales, which we had not expected.
And that isn't a contractual thing, that could go away, depends on their, just to be aware that, that they could make another decision where they say, we just want to purchase fuel in Philly. Because originally that was the case, so either they like what we do in our pricing and hopefully that will maintain that.
But if we do lose fuel sales,
We lose.
we'll also have less expense.
So
So the percentage should still remain that we're going to continue to make a minimum of $1 a gallon on each gallon sold.
Do we make the same margin on the sales to Contour?
Yes. They're paying retail. They did not enter into a contract
Yeah.
to purchase fuel from us at say, a cost.
So there was
plus
no
manner.
special deal?
No,
What are costs?
Our cost is lower than it would be in Philadelphia.
Exactly.
I think so, but the other thing that we don't have that they probably find in Philadelphia is delays. If you're waiting to get fueled, you're not waiting to get
Yeah.
fueled here,
Yeah.
where you could end up 30 minutes late taking off, just waiting to get fuel down there. The airport AEAS income is the same as the AEAS expense under airport. It really is just a pass-through. What we get from USDOT is exactly what the Contour invoice to us is. So I don't, that's just a complete pass-through. Our industrial park revenue, our marine terminal assumes 4 salt vessels. We have in the past gotten about 6 in a good year and 2 in a bad year. So we have budgeted for the 4 that we've been advised we should be getting. The only drawback to this number is unless we get extra salt, there isn't any extra money. And then our railroad revenue, we get easement funding and a per car fee every year, which it remains fairly stable. Our salary expenses, the contract increase for the CSEA, which has the new CSEA agreement has not yet been approved. That will come to the board in January at our January meeting, but we did assume the contracted 3% for the CSEA members for their increase. And that spans every salary expense except the Commerce Park, which is simply part of Anthony's salary for working with the tenants in the Commerce Park. So that's management.
Is that a 3 or 4 year deal?
5.
5. Good.
We have, the contract has a fixed 3% every year salary increase, but on the other side, there are some other concessions they have asked us for in lieu of a cost of living increase in addition to. Our benefits are all based on the number of employees we have. Also, we're hearing that there's going to be between a 9 and 11% increase in medical insurance. So I know we have at least, I believe it's a 9% for 6 months across the board. Our utilities, what we do with utilities is we took last year's, the 21-22 actual for the year. Then we took the 6-month actual for this year. We extrapolated to the end of the year. We looked at how it went against 21-22, and then have made assumptions for what our utilities should be going forward. Interest expense is based on our debt. You'll notice the airport interest expense is our largest. It's everybody else's interest expense is more if we don't pay the water sewer bill on time, it's a 10% interest charge of a few things like that. But the majority of the interest that's paid out is airport interest on the
Now that you're talking about is basically the bond on the terminal that the authority had to take because that came from us, no outside funding, is that correct?
correct. The only non-airport debt is the $75,000 to New York State that we will be sending a letter to waive again this year. All of the rest of the debt belongs to the airport. We have the land mortgage on Route 812. We have a line of credit that was never paid back that has been turned into a term loan. We have a mortgage for the airport with Tompkins Trust. We have a line of credit with Tompkins that was split into a term loan and a line of credit. We have the self-serve fuel station, small, it's a very small loan. The MAPCO software parking and the tax exempt bond. And that does account for the bottom line that you'll see below the operating. Our principal current portion of the long-term debt is $883,000 for this year. And then we have the grant portion, the OBPA portion of grants and capital expenditures with a net loss of almost 3.1.
Are the wind projects a hard and fast no, or is it probably not, but maybe?
I'd say you never know. And what, I think, getting to Chris's point about just being totally, we're not being.
Right.
In the past, I'm just saying, there's been things that have been put in just with the hope that it's going to happen. I'd say 90% no.
Okay.
We usually know by now, but that doesn't mean, like, for example, we just got a windmill blade for a project. There was a repair blade. That isn't a project, but it's nice to have. It's a moneymaker. There could be things similar to that, and depending on other areas or things, we could be a port of choice for some project that comes up. And along that line, when we're talking about salt, we don't have salt from a couple companies right now, but that isn't to say come fall of next year, we say we go reach out, and this is where we talk about trying to generate revenue. We try to change people's minds about that didn't come this year. Would a reduction allow you to get a contract that you can come here? Those are the kind of things that they could be worth $175,000, $200,000. But we decided we're not gonna. I've got some confidence that we can try that, and it's a possibility because salt contracts work that way. That they're not bid there, but we're not gonna put that in there. So there's room for potential revenue. That's about as happy as I'm going to get about it.
I'd like to propose that we separate approving a budget and filing it with the state, which we have to do, and we have to do it to our best. Separate that from the management tool that a budget can be, because we could wait and sit down and have a budget discussion in our March meeting and say, here's what we know now.
And that goes to Megan's question is, I was thinking, I've said this to Patty a number of times, if this is the third week of March, I could go, whoa, okay. We're talking with Adam and Anthony and things like that. You know, really, this isn't a happy thing. This is a real budget. And I'm not trying to generate that, but it's just the timing and everything like that, that we have to go with what we have now. And
That's right.
And that's why we're at that number.
And
So-
just to be clear, I would much rather have it be in the budget right now at a 0 if it really is like a 90% no. I was just curious about where, like,
Sure.
Right.
if you had to best guess it.
And I think over the years, we've had people come in February and can you be ready for May? And we do whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I just generally how they go, and with Adam's knowledge of that, we usually know by now. So that, but there are other things that I can inform you about that we're working on that, but it's just like, I'm just not going there with any of that.
All right,
So-
yeah, not for this purpose.
Right, but
Yeah.
to your point and to Chris's is, when you look in March, we could, you know, it could soften a little bit based on what we know.
Here's hoping.
Huh?
Here's hoping, yeah.
Yeah.
So we might, as a management procedure, as a communication procedure, sit down in March and say, here's the draft that was adopted in December, and here's the way it looks in March.
That's always possible, yes.
You know, when I ask you for some of these things, and I'd love to have lots of facts and figures and charts and graphs, I'm often aware that these create a paperwork task for you guys, and sometimes it means time that is already committed. And it's not as if I see you leaving early, looking for things to do. But, you know, if we could be prepared to come back in a few months and look over these, maybe a similar document with comparison to, then I think that it would be easier for me to just say, okay, let's, for the time being, take our best shot, rather than trying to decide to act or acts right now.
I think you're right, Chris, and Megan. I'd rather see a true number right now, what we're looking at. And come back to it in March, like you say, Chris. I mean, where are we? Unfortunately, this budget has to go to Albany now, by the month is over. 3 months for us, a lot of things happen. You know, because of traffic across the bridge, what happens in Canada, what happens with the exchange rate, what happens at the port, you know, and shipping season, because now at the end of this month, the seaway is closed. So we don't know what's going to happen in 2023, in April and on. And as far as what's going on at the airport, 3 months, a lot of things can change. And we're going into, as we just heard from McFarland Johnson, we're going into quite a busy period regarding what's happening out there. And I think we were looking for, you know, maybe increased revenue out at the airport as a result of this project and how that fits into all this. So I'm thinking if we don't sit down in March and go over where we are and what we're looking at for the actual budget year that starts April 1, 23, then shame on us.
One of the things that occurs to me as a cost control issue is delaying filling Stephanie's slot as airport manager. Are we able to function legally and without endangering the airport certification?
Yes, but from from a organizational thing, I think it would be to our detriment not to have the right person. You know, I know what you're saying. Yes, to answer your question, we could go scorched earth and say, we're not going to get in here. We could get by between James, myself, and we've got it covered now.
Yeah.
But I think it would be to the detriment of the organization as far as bringing in somebody with, you know,
Yeah.
we get to choose and bring in somebody that may have a different view and energy
Sure.
to that. But to answer your question, yes, we could.
It's more
Well-
liability than it's worth, probably,
Yes.
honestly.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
It's probably more liability than it's worth to leave that vacant.
Well, I could certainly accept that judgment, especially if you had somebody who you thought was a strong candidate, the right person. Because the quality of this team is excellent. But there have been times when we've had weak links, and that's not a help.
And then we did, Patty and I, through the last 3 years, have learned we didn't have full staff, or we didn't have people like in Anthony's position.
Sure.
We were doing 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Just I will say that having these 2 here, really, we appreciate. I can do more. I'm more effective, and Patty's that, and I think we build a team, and then also organizational knowledge. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a very important to the survival of the OBPA.
Steve, speaking for myself, I hear you and believe it. But if we hire another person, I want to see a cash flow projection that shows a reasonable likelihood that we can pay for that person for a year.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I do not want to just jump off a cliff and hope I've got a parachute.
Well, the fact that we haven't filled them has helped the bottom line on this budget year.
Absolutely.
And we don't have to. I mean, we're going into the personnel committee meeting.
Yeah.
Looking very strongly at these, and if the interviews don't come through, we're not going to take someone just
To
to
fill the
fill a
slot.
position.
Well, you know, the right person is such an asset that they really do make it worthwhile. And filling the slot, sometimes it's awfully disappointing because you can do all the training and, you know, go through all the certifications and not have it be the right person. And, you know, maybe you do the equivalent of shooing them out the door.
Well, there's 3 on the personnel committee. We'll bring a recommendation to the full board.
Yeah.
When that happens, all 7 members certainly have the right to question the credentials and the possibility of what they can bring to the authority.
Yeah.
And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. And if 4 of the 7 believe we're not getting our money's worth, that takes care of that.
Yeah. Well, I feel comforted. I keep thinking that if David were here at the meeting, he'd have something to say.
Well, he's gonna have his opportunity. He's the other member of the finance committee, but if you're willing to turn that over to him for comments, go right ahead. If you're done.
Yes. Yeah. Do you
I'll
have more,
entertain-
Andy?
No, I'll entertain questions if anyone has any.
Dave, you're a member of the finance committee. You have anything?
Must be Chris wants something, so I would just add that I haven't been on this committee. I appreciate the budget that's before us, whether it's in the red or not, it's actually real. And I appreciate that. So because of that, we've got a lot of work to do, right? And we've had work to do and we've done good work. And so I believe in doing what we're doing, sticking with our plan, looking in March. And concur with everything that was said. So the nice thing about being remote is I can just talk a little.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nicole?
No, I appreciate the work that's been done also. And, I always, just like, I feel like we had this conversation last year, looking at the budget too. I would always err on the side of looking at things very conservatively. And then I think it provides opportunities for growth and opportunities to explore along the way that provide us some focus for the next year. So I appreciate it.
Ken?
Really, I concur with everything that's been said. I do appreciate your report, Chris. Very well done. I appreciate, kind of the historical perspective of what, past leading to present day. It's, there's some tough points to make, but I appreciate the candor. I think it's important to, to have the conversation. And again, I agree that we need to report to the state what's real, what reality is, and make some different projections with what we're going to do in a few months. Agreed.
Good. Megan?
I think as hard as some of these numbers are to look at, I think we also have to appreciate that they could be a lot worse. And if it wasn't for the team that's sitting across the table. I mean, realistically, you guys have done a tremendous amount of work. And I know that you guys aren't going to stop hustling and making, every ounce of every opportunity work for us. So thank you guys.
And the attitude that we've had for this budget was the attitude that we had last year.
Mhm.
So I would just say to you, look at where we are. I mean, there was underlying things, but we also had things that could help us for this past budget year. And it's been organized and there's been no surprises there to, if the results of this budget was just all over the place and just you didn't have a good feeling about it, then you could have reason to doubt where we're going forward. But I would say to you that we had the same work attitude toward the budget last year, and we had things to work with, and that's why, the results this year are going to be okay. But going forward, things have just dropped off in timing and everything like that. And I will want to make 2 points. Just number one, there was $4 million in toll revenue that we're never going to get back. That just, it was supplemented and it helped out at the airport, but it's money that will, it's gone. And then the other thing is we've been receiving help from the state in the form of grants and the federal government in the form of grants. We can't use grants for operating. And the public needs to know that, you see on there, oh, we've got a great grant for the airport. And then you see this number and you try to say, well, why can't you just, it doesn't work.
Well,
right.
essentially, every grant really requires a local contribution.
No, it's in there. But, people aren't that involved in what we do. You see headlines and things. And I just want the public to know that they're two separate things. And we wish it weren't so. We wish we could just say, hey, but that's just the way it is in operating. That's really what we're dealing with. Those are operating costs. Mm-hmm. And we've done pretty well with the grants. We also, in 21 and 22, or 20 and 22, we did a $19.6 million rehab on the bridge. And that's difficult even in normal times. Mm-hmm. But that was with great help from the federal government and the New York State DOT. That without them, and to have them, but it's just, there's things that we need to take stock and pride in, and you as a board allowed us to do that. So those are just some things that I just feel need to be out there, and I just wanted to say. Did I
Anyone else?
anybody?
Anyone else? No? I can't say I always like to see red numbers at the bottom of a budget and operating income at a loss. However, Steve just mentioned the loss of $4 million in bridge revenue that none of us had any control over. absolutely none. And I remember when we first heard, when Steve had just become interim executive director, that the border was going to close basically, except for truck traffic. And I guess the shock of that, what do we do? Because it's not just revenue across the bridge. That's not all that we do. Closing the border affected what happened at the airport. Obviously, the loss of Allegiant, the loss of SkyWest and going to Chicago and Washington, the effect that that had on us, not only for that amount of time, but even today. What our services at the airport, we keep asking residents to use it. We've done everything we possibly could to get as best air traffic service out of here as we can. Now we have to use it. If you ever want it different and better, whatever that is and what it is now, then support it. We've been lucky that our elected officials have helped us out, saw what problems were going to happen during COVID. And, unlike a lot of organizations, it's going to take us longer to come out of this. Now that our budget is released, public, our elected officials will see where we are, understand that staff and this board has done everything we possibly could to make this organization stronger. And we are. Look at our increase in assets here at the authority. With Anthony here and Jim, what they've brought to the authority, everything that we expect of them in the future. Like Chris had said, we expect them to increase our revenue here. And I think we all do. It's a tough budget. We've had the conversation with DOB in Albany. They're aware of where we're at. I'm sure we're not the only ones. I wasn't a bit surprised that the Thruway Authority is looking for a rate increase. And if they're looking for a rate increase, it tells you there's a lot of state agencies that are still facing a tough time of it. And, we're not alone. Doesn't really make me feel any better, but I think, by the time we're into April, things will look a little bit better than 3.1 million. We're going to do everything we can. As Dave and Chris and everyone else has said, we have faith in our staff that, they will do what needs to be done so that the authority keeps moving forward, reducing the deficit or the loss of operating income, and we just keep plugging forward. That's what we do. I have complete faith in staff, complete faith in this board to do what's right for the authority, which means we're doing what's right for the region, St. Lawrence County, and the state of New York, because these assets are owned by the state of New York, and we're responsible to keep them safe. And I believe we will. Anyone else?
I had the idea at one time that we were required to file a balanced budget. But my understanding right now is that it's not required, it's requested, it's recommended, if you will. Does that sound like a fair understanding of
believe so,
what? So the budget department is not going to look at this and say, oh, change the budget.
They already know it's coming.
Yeah. Well, if it were time, I would make a motion regarding the budget.
It is.
I would move that we adopt the budget as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not, Jen, call the roll, please.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Ms. Kiffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Sutton?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Mr. King?
Yes.
Approved. Thank you. All right. Reports. We've done the finance committee. We've done the income and expense committee, I assume. Bridge traffic report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You can see on, you have the reports in front of you? Yes, thank you, Patty. The percentage change is at 23%, which is, that actually is higher than what we've anticipated, higher bridge traffic than we anticipated in this budget there. And then for all other crossings, you see that's down 9%, but that doesn't alarm me at all. But overall, we're down 22%, which is a higher percentage than we had budgeted for currently. And it is, this is encouraging in that the trend is still going upward. So you can see the bottom line with the 113, the revenue versus you're still roughly $54,000 short of a normal year. But the overall picture you can take away from this is the trend is coming back toward normal. And even if it's a little bit each month, we'll take it. Any questions on that?
Well, as you said, even truck traffic is down almost 10% this month, but has been relatively stable then. You need to move, whoever did that, you need to move your cells a little bit more. So the negative shows up in front of the 9.
Okay. Well, if you look at the bottom line, you see 2021, all other crossings,
Yes.
6,200, then compared to 6,300 for 2019. So 2021 was a COVID year. You can see
Right.
that it does vary a little bit there.
Those of us that work with Excel all the time, it's little. You know what I mean?
Make your font smaller.
No, just increase your cell size.
Then it will go off of the.
No, it won't. There's enough room on the margin.
Fit everything on one page.
All right. Any questions on bridge traffic report? Airport activity?
We have a contact with Contour, so we are now getting the employment numbers. You can see that we do have October and November employments. Our contact is helping us fill in September. I expect September will be somewhere between the 732 and the 674 for September. But you'll notice that our flight load is below 50% for Contour. We have a smaller plane and less people on the plane. Our 2022 total is right now at 6809 employments. We only have 1 month to go plus the back September, which will possibly bring us to about 8,500, but certainly will not bring us to the 10,000.
And that matters next year. Why?
Our entitlement grant of $1 million is based on our reaching our 10,000 employments.
No more being grandfathered in.
Exactly.
No, this is the last year.
So Chris, that goes to your discussion on if we hire an airport manager, how do we make a determination if they've done the job or not? So we need to look at 10,000 employments next year.
It's their metric.
Yeah.
And we are waiting to kick off an airport advertising campaign based on the grant that we just got that we haven't heard a whole lot about that, but time's ticking and it's important to get into that vacation. That
Did we get the 25,000 from the IDA?
I've just heard verbally. We haven't heard anything.
Does Ms. Terminelli have any idea where that could be?
I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention. I'm totally doing math. Okay, sorry. Sorry. I was just looking at the 4 months of data that we have for Contour that was extrapolated into next year based on the monthly average. That would put us at 7,833. So that's not going to be enough. We're going to have to do
Exactly.
something.
Exactly.
Sorry, now that I have that out of my system, I'm totally focused on
It was in the paper, it was reported in the paper,
What's that?
right, the 25,000 from the
The
IDA.
paper
Yes.
did mention.
Right.
The
Yes.
two airports are splitting the grant.
But until we have it,
Right.
I have
we
no
don't have it.
contact. I have nothing in writing or anything like, I'm used to getting grant notifications.
Right.
And all I know is from what I read in the paper.
Right.
I mean,
Well, Anthony could speak a little bit more.
That's exactly.
well, I'm thankful that the IDA, through the county, I'm assuming, is willing to allocate $25,000 to us for marketing.
Mhm.
But if we don't get it when we really need it, then it is not as useful as it could be. So if there's any way that could be moved along so that we could use it for now, what are we, 12 days away from Christmas now?
February breaks are coming up for school, spring break.
Spring break.
People are booking
See what I
those
can find out.
soon, if not already.
Trying to be patient, but I'm starting to lose it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Understood.
Anything else on airport activity, board activity? Oh, and I want to thank you for that report. It's much better in that format, whoever did that on the port. Jim, you did that?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
As you can see, we received a vessel, the John Leach, on the 7th. And if you look forward a page in the printout, that was just an interesting photo I took of, they have two loaders down at the bottom of the vessel and a skid steer that puts the salt into the center conveyor belt that then goes to the discharge belt. It's an interesting sight for myself, so I thought I would share
Did
it.
you know what it was?
Not exactly, well, I knew what that was, but.
But
I just got the skid steer with the front loader on it.
There'll be nothing left of it.
I was gonna say,
That's a good picture.
Yeah.
the depreciation's pretty.
we shipped or trucked out 5,521 tons last month and still have inventory of 130 plus.
That's at the end of November. I've noticed a lot of trucks.
Yes. the last
Coming and
couple
going?
days Since the last small little
Right,
snowstorm have picked up. And last month we received 642 ton of gluten pellets and 162 ton left. And not as much with the gluten meal, but still 166 received with 27 trucked out of the port.
So that 130,000 ton of salt that's down there. In comparison to past years, where is that? Are we about on target for, I know it depends on the weather, but what we've had to do in the past?
Yeah, if you had a moderate to heavy winter, probably most of that will be gone. And I can remember one year, just anecdotally, right around the third week of January, the weather just was bad, right through till the middle of March. And at that time, I think we had somewhere around 125,000, and it was all gone to where we couldn't ship any, we didn't have any more to ship out. And it goes that fast with the right and I've been telling James just some history, sometimes we used to move 8 to 10,000 tons a week. You'd have 40 trucks in there coming in 3 or 4 times a day and just moving. But as you all know, the winters just haven't been, but in some ways, some of those light snowfalls and stuff, you don't use it a lot at a time, but you use it steady, so that can help. But to answer your question, a big year for us would be something like 180 to 200,000 in storage. But it depends on the contracts that they have.
Right. So when we say our night prayers, we should ask for lots of snow.
No,
Unfortunately.
no,
What?
not going that far.
Yeah.
I think I am.
You'll rethink that after our snow on Friday.
End of January, you'll be over.
I just need to finish putting my rink together and hope it stays cold. Anything else on port activity? Dave, you good? Okay. Building occupancy report and the industrial commercial prospect report, Anthony?
Yeah, so this looks largely the same as it did last month. The big change has been relocation of our biggest tenant in Building 4 has relocated that space to Building 11. The good news is that they're paying a better rate and they're leasing more square footage, so that's good. But I'm not happy with where that number's at, so that's as far as Commerce Park goes is the main focus, aside from making sure the tenants are taken care of. So more to come. That's the 4920 number for Building 4. That's what I anticipate getting approved today, so.
Okay. Well, that's what, I'm
Right,
sorry.
the 12,000 square feet that are left in there,
Yes.
are those pretty, is it pretty chunked together that we could
So
work with
that,
different clients?
that includes about 2,000 square feet of office space. And then the remaining is light manufacturing, nice warehousing
Pretty
space.
contiguous.
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
So that will be nice. The Building 1, the 1,100 square foot, that is actually the cafeteria space.
That's it.
So I've been kind of holding that in my back pocket to hopefully put it back into somewhat of a cafeteria
Yeah.
/ cafe space. So that's a little more challenging to fill. As far as kind of the monthly activities, I had the good fortune with Steve and Adam to attend the 17th annual Highway H2O conference in Toronto. It was very eye-opening to get kind of meet and greet the Great Lakes Seaway folks that basically operate the whole system. So that was good.
There's a big emphasis on sustainability and future, a lot of energy
Yeah, yeah.
issues and talking about how, what the future looks like all over the world with shipping and things like that. So that was kind of the major focus of a lot of the speakers there.
Yeah, and that seems to be the common theme from a lot of things we've been hearing and discussing. Like we said today on the Executive Order 22 from the governor's office about environmental improvements. So by 2035, our light duty fleet needs to be all electric, zero emissions. By 2040, medium and heavy duty vehicles need to be zero emissions. So charging infrastructure.
I won't be on the
and all.
board then.
Yeah, and then at the Highway H2O, though, there was people from the Seaway, there was people from Washington with the transportation. I had the good fortune to meet with Steve Fisher, who one of the things that I'm interested in is because we're multimodal, I know what the airport does. We get an allocation every year, either through the 10,000 enplanements, but it's an annual thing that they put money toward keeping airports up. That model I talked to him about, and seems to be getting a little traction with the lobbyists that trying to get people on board so that ports get an allocation every year. And so you're not, I don't know, I've probably done a half dozen port grants in 3 years and we've gotten one. But when you think about having to apply for different grants all the time, it wears you out. And then you get the impression after trying twice, you give, for us, you figure, well, no one's interested in helping you. But anyway, I had the good fortune to talk to him about that. And so we're working on trying to get some traction among all kinds of ports, just Great Lake ports or whatever, to get an annual, a program from the federal government that would allocate based on what you do, tonnage or whatever, just like you do with airports. It's something that you can count on so that you can allocate your capital spending and do your planning for the next couple of years. But that was something that we were able to while attending there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that would be tremendous. A couple other highlights. We're continuing to work with the foreign trade zone attorney, our foreign trade zone attorney, for the ACO buyers. We see the light at the end of the tunnel to get them fully approved. Customs and Border Patrol has been 100% supportive, very good to work with. We have, November, we welcomed Frank Rouse Incorporated into Building 11. I spoke with them this morning. They're getting settled in, a little bit of growing pains. They're going through all the hiring processes and things. And hopefully in the January timeframe, I'd like to get some availability from the board to maybe do a meet and greet and a facility tour, and then maybe to have some good PR from opportunities from that. For airport, we've secured more radio advertising in the Canadian market. So we've renewed and refocused our radio advertising in the Canadian market. We've done some research on the Opportunity Zone program. Nicole, your point of contact, I've reached out. We're got to get together with him, but just to let you know, the Opportunity Zone program really allows you to defer or reduce capital gains taxes when you invest in those zones. It's a little unfortunate for the project we've discussed offline. That property sits just south of the Opportunity Zone border, as does our airport. But thankfully, our Commerce Park, our port are smack right in the Opportunity Zone. And just to give you a perspective on that, Messina has one and Potsdam has one as well. And Potsdam's is essentially on the other side of the river, so not the Clarkson side, but basically the core section of Potsdam. So we're gonna just keep pursuing those avenues, whatever kind of tools we have in our toolkit to attract companies. We're all for it. So.
Good. Been up to the embassy yet?
No, I've made contacts though with the American Chamber of Commerce in Canada.
Good.
And he's been able to share some contacts, so we'll pursue that.
Any other questions of Anthony?
Do you have any demographic information about people coming over, like people that are actually using our airport? Any like who's coming from Canada?
Yeah, it's a very good question. That's what we were working to get a better grasp on. There's been informal surveys of cars in the parking lot. Are they from Quebec or Ontario? Things like that. But what we're finding in early stage discussions with air service providers and things like that is the data is very important. And that's what we really need to get a better grasp on, of who our customer is.
Right.
I mean, I know that not everybody accesses technology, but could that just be as easy as having signage at the where they check in when they first get there, with the QR code that they snap in a simple Google form that we have, ready, we can access at any time and get real-time data on?
Yeah, that's things we need to pursue.
Okay.
No, you just blew my mind on that. No, I didn't know you could. No, that's great.
Yeah, I mean,
I
just
got it
QR
on
code,
that.
laminate it,
Yeah.
put it up, and then have the people that are checking them in say, make sure you scan this and take the survey on your way out. We're trying to gather data to improve services at the airport.
So I should say that we have worked with Steve Baldwin Associates, and together we have developed a survey. It's just the logistics of putting that into play have been a little clunky to date. So we're just, we have to get over those challenges, but we'd have it ready to go. So.
So next time I'm at the airport, I should see that then.
What month are you
That's
going?
what-
If not, you ready? No, I just have it up a little bit more.
still working on my rig, so I might not be this Sunday. But I'll be out there looking for that, Nicole. I'll give you a call.
They're good.
Good, that's
Give me a
good.
printer, I can put it out there tonight.
Wow, Anthony, yeah, there you go. Anything else of Anthony? No? Unfinished business, is there any, Mr. Lawrence?
No, Mr. Well, did you all see the memo that I wrote about the port? It's not really unfinished business, I guess. But the Corps of Engineers is asking, do we want to just keep going along and keep connected, or do we want to stop the agreement that we have with them?
What agreement is that?
We've had a project agreement in place. And we can end that, or we can keep going. Just
One
to
on
keep that
the
on the
dredging?
Yes.
Is that what Senator Schumer's office told us not to surrender at some point?
No, I'm not sure on that. With that, I'd have to go back and look. That could be what you're talking about. The idea is if all of a sudden money were to come for us for the dredging, things would be in place already. And just given everything that's happened, I wasn't going to just make that decision myself. And it really didn't require a board resolution. It was really kind of polling the board on what you'd like me to do.
Are there carrying costs associated with just keeping it open?
No.
or- Yeah.
They'll just provide a quarterly report, or maybe it's biannual or whatever, of where we're at, and then maybe we address it in another year.
So they made contact with you regarding that?
Yes.
Send that on to Senator Schumer, Gillibrand staff, and Congresswoman Stefanik.
And ask the question?
No.
Oh.
Let them know that we were asked and we're still
Interesting.
hoping that at some point in time we.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I follow you. Yeah. But I didn't want to make it too complicated with a resolution or anything. It's just more or less what.
I don't think we should close the door, right?
No.
I don't either. No.
Okay.
Doesn't cost us anything to keep it
Perhaps
open and
not
then
that
we're ready.
Right.
Pros and
You're
cons.
ready.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're ready for an opportunity when it closes. So.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
It's another hope that Corps of Engineers would step up and do the right thing this time.
Well. Okay, that was all I had.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we're under business items. We've done A1, A2.
The management confidential compensation policy as approved in the employee handbook at the October 7, 2021 board meeting states the annual adjustment factor will be set by the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority Board of Directors at the December board meeting each year. And we have a fill in the blank. It is recommended by the Board of Directors and Executive Director that a salary increase be extended to management confidential employees for 2023. The salary increase would be retroactive to January 1st upon completion of employee evaluations.
Is that right? 2023? This would be for increase starting January 1, 23, or for
Correct.
2022?
No, in the retroactive of January 1st, 2023, because a lot of times we don't have the
Oh, it would
evaluation.
go,
And I
okay.
think we ran into that a couple of years ago, and
Yes,
that stipulated that until evaluations are determined, no one gets any kind of raise or
right,
Once.
right.
if one's given, yes.
All right. I know we just got this. We didn't see it yet in personnel, but this is how we've done it for a long time.
Right.
Any thoughts?
Well, I guess I have a question. I do remember going through this process last year. Has it been standard procedure to increase each year?
You know, I've had years where there was, depending on the economy and the way things were, I've had years where there's been nothing.
Okay.
And it's,
How much money do we have to give, Patty? Not to give, Patty, to give, comma, Patty. There's a comma after the give. Right.
We budgeted 4%. The CSEA, if the board approves their new agreement, the CSEA increase as of April 1st will be 3%.
And what was the percentage last year? Same?
No,
Oh, that's right, yes.
everybody,
10 and
Yes.
10 and
Right.
5.
Because
We
of
had-
other
we had-
extenuating,
Raises.
right. Plus we had people doing 2 jobs.
Right.
Right,
Or
right,
sometimes
okay.
and
More than 2.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
at the time, the CSEA, the cost of living was 7.
Yes, that was
Okay.
8.5.
That was
Well, my opinion, I'll just jump in, is that we move forward pending evaluations with our budgeted amount.
4%.
Mhm.
Dave?
I missed what Patty said about CSCA and didn't pick up on the mic.
If the board approves the CSEA agreement, their raise as of April 1st will be 3%.
If you're wondering what I'm thinking, I don't know how we give raises when we have a negative budget, as much as I want to give raises. So that's, so I have a question about how do we do that? Given it's just what it looks like, I guess. So I'm curious what the rest of the board members think on that.
Well, the amount that's in the budget was 4%.
So is this for this past year or is this for did I must have missed something.
The year coming based upon 2022's evaluation, right?
Yes,
Right, we'll
correct.
give evaluations at the end of 2022. The raise would take effect in January 2023.
Right.
Wait, can you just say that again?
The raises will take effect in January 2023 based on our overall reviews for year 2022.
But January 2023 through
So next
March
January.
31st are actually part of last year's budget, or?
No,
No.
we go
Calendar management goes
Okay,
calendar
thank you.
year,
Thank you for
CSEA
clarification.
goes fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit confusing.
Well, that makes things a bit challenging.
But CSEA is not based on evaluation, correct? It's just a 3%
union
raise.
negotiation.
It's a union, right,
There's
okay.
any merit raises or anything like that.
Right.
Megan?
So this is a hard one for me because I have a fundamental issue with the union getting a raise when the non-union doesn't get a raise. Like when yours is merit-based, and I think wholeheartedly you guys have earned more than 4%. I mean, honestly, if we're looking at merit-based versus like what we can afford, obviously, I mean, we just can't give you the raise that you guys deserve. That being said, I mean, and I guess I'll defer to Mr. Coffin, because he's always the hard facts when it comes to finances, but I don't know that I can justify a 4% raise, given what we just looked at, but I certainly am inclined to say if the union gets 3%, then it seems fair to me. But
That
that's,
management making 3%, that what you're saying?
yeah,
Okay.
it's a tough one.
Nicole, before we go to Chris?
Sure, I mean, I agree with Megan. We're trying to be fiscally responsible, and we are trying to keep this operation open. for the state. And I do think that if CSEA is going to get 3%, I sometimes have a hard time with management getting more. I agree that, we don't want them to get less, but also it's a hard sell to your workers when they're not getting an equal raise. And with that said, I will say that I'm hoping that our management folks feel like now that we're a little bit closer to fully staffed, that your workload, like there's that balance between your salary and the amount of work that was on the table for you before compared to what it is now that we've got staffing in place, that you kind of have your own lane of responsibilities and you're not juggling so many hats.
It's up to you, Chris.
How much is the total impact of, let's say, a 4% or something like that going to be? Are we looking at about $500,000 worth of salaries? I'm not sure if I've got a significant estimate.
The dollar amount associated with
With the increase,
Yeah, what is it?
1, 2,
Numbers.
3,
Yeah,
4, et cetera.
Oh, that wouldn't be the increase.
you want total amount.
I'm trying to get to what the increase might be. Or how much salary is subject to
Yeah.
this decision.
Right, right. Is that 5 people? 6 people would be.
Or
It's hard to say because right now, we don't have a senior administrative assistant. And, I can't look at last year's and say, from last year to this year.
Right.
We also got,
here, you can give me all the numbers.
Last year was an outlier. For sure.
You can get a rough number. I mean, you want an order of magnitude of what we're
Right.
looking at for overall
What's
increase.
That's right.
Yeah, what's a 3%?
Within
What's a
10,
3%?
And if 4%
10-20%
was budgeted
would-
in,
Right.
how much was that actually, right? How much you're looking for?
Yeah, how much will be subject to the raise?
We've actually
Because-
put a hurdle in there that Patty
Yeah.
can't jump.
no.
Well, we found the limit.
We stuck there.
It took us a few years, Patty, but we got it. We stumped
Yeah,
you.
three.
Oh, he's got
That
it
would
right there.
be 1,500.
While he's calculating that, I will say, I know that this resolution says it's based on evaluations, but I think that we all know that all of your evaluations will go very
That's-
well.
Mhm.
And so
That's kind of a
No doubt.
technicality,
whatever we
really.
decide here ends up being a done deal, so.
But frankly, it wasn't
Which ones
going
would
to
be
pass
all
because we're just getting raises ready, probably.
They shouldn't.
Some consultation.
Oh, I know exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
I think while this calculation is done, that for me, it kind of isn't affected by how much money we're talking about.
And then-
Because if I vote with my heart, I vote for the raise. But if,
That's a decrease.
and if it's not a terribly significant number, I say,
It's a watch.
let's go with it.
15, how much is it?
But if we're talking larger numbers,
Like 6 figures, 5 figures.
How does it affect that rate
Yeah.
on the
6
rate?
figures. 6 figures would start to be worth
Yeah.
cutting.
We gotta pump the brakes.
I don't think we're anywhere near that.
You're talking about $16,000.
Oh,
I think for $16,000, we say, guys, great job. We will figure out how to deal with 16,000.
That's at 4%,
No, it's at 3.
3%. Okay. All right.
Okay,
I
well,
mean, is that the-
yeah.
The number was based on 4,
I'm
I think.
Okay.
That's.
Patty.
So
what the
the-
budget's
Four.
for.
Okay, so at 4%,
Less if you-
it's 16,000.
Well,
So at
as a
3%,
matter of
it's
window
less than
dressing, I
16,000.
think 3% is the way to go.
Yeah, I don't see how we can,
All right.
honestly, if that's the
Okay.
number.
All right. Everybody's had an opportunity to offer an opinion, so is there a motion?
So we're.
There's no, remember, in here, there's no number.
Right.
Right.
So if you're gonna make a motion, you gotta put a number in there.
we have to do it in two separate
Well,
motions?
Nope.
or-
Because I love to have my name on these things. I'll make a motion that we fill the gap with a figure 3% and approve a 3% pay raise for administrative staff.
Does this include you or not?
Mhm.
Oh, it does? Didn't before we had a separate agreement with the executive director?
Yeah, you did.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy.
I forgot, I totally forgot
But
about
this,
that.
Yeah,
this would
get that.
include you.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So the motion's been made, recommended by the board of directors
PTSD
and executive director.
Mhm.
Right.
So the motion says, even though I don't know why you're in there,
I've
If you're-
just been in there
if you're part of
every
this,
year.
I would make a motion to amend that.
yes, it shouldn't be in there.
Can't vote, yeah.
If you're getting a
Oh,
raise,
Right, right. Strike that.
it should be.
Yeah.
Chris, is that correct?
Take that out.
I'm gonna read this, Chris. Tell me if you agree.
Okay.
It is recommended by the board of directors that a 3% salary increase be extended to management confidential employees for 2023.
The resolution is correct. The report
That's the
is not.
report. Okay, the resolution is correct. Okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion you're making is on the resolution, excuse me, with a 3% increase placed in it. Right?
That is
Okay,
my
motion's
intention.
been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Ken, call the roll, please.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Ms. Pittman?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Swett?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Yeah, Dave surprised me. Thank you.
Once I got the 16,000 number, it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
And it's,
Yeah,
and
you're looking
like
at
Chris
100.
said, if you were to vote with your heart, it would be different.
right. Absolutely. All right, approval of agreement with strategic development.
The authority is a contract with Strategic Development Specialist, a MWBE organization to assist the authority with governmental affairs and advocacy of the authority projects, to provide information on
Do you have
policy
an
and programs
agenda?
that may have potential impact on the authority, and to assist in strategic planning efforts to advance the interest of the authority with respect
I'm
to
trying to
identifying,
figure out what's on the agenda.
securing,
I need to
implementing
ask him.
grants and other
I've got
incentives
another meeting at 7.
pertaining to the authority's priorities and programs. The authority has negotiated to extend the current contract for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023 at a cost of $6,000 per month. There will be no monthly fee increase over the 2022 agreement.
Thank you. My opinion only, strategic development specialist has done fantastic job for us through 2022. I see no reason why we would not approve this. Not only because of the job they've done, but because they are a MWBE. And I think we need to show our support for those individual companies, corporations, organizations, my opinion. Is there a motion?
Also move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Dave, you good? Okay. No further discussion? Then call the roll, please.
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Swett?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda
Did she
item
poll you?
Hmm?
Did she poll you?
started with her.
Yeah, she
Oh,
started with
okay.
me. Yeah.
I
Agenda
can't
item
post one.
B1, approval of a plow purchase for a 2021 Ford F-150.
When the 2021 Ford F-150 was purchased, a plow package for a half-ton pickup truck through state pricing was unavailable. Staff has been able to find an aftermarket plow assembly that could be mounted On the Ford, with the current fleet of trucks aging, it is prudent to have another plow available for snow emergencies. 3 bids were received. Route 11 Trucking, 7,265. Latham Auto, 5,100. Conway Beam Truck Group, $5,318. Conway Beam is recommended based on parts availability, technical strength, previous experience, and response to equipment repairs. It is felt that continuing the historical relationship is in the best interest of the authority. Staff endorses the use of Conway Beam for the plow package and installation.
Thank you. Resolutions before you, is there a motion?
So moved.
Made
Second,
and seconded. Any discussion? Not Jen, call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes,
Mr. Mallon?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
yes,
Yes.
Agenda item C1.
Sam,
Yes.
I am interested in leaving. I've got another meeting that theoretically I start at 7. I'm thinking that that's okay and because there's
Absolutely.
adequate
We're good with the
quorum.
quorum, yes.
And I appreciate your proposal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for your
Thank
work
you
and
for
everything.
your report,
Very good.
Chris. Great, thank you.
Cheers.
Try to say.
Yeah, bye-bye.
We'd have been done if it wasn't for Jen talking so much, Chris.
Which one?
Well,
I know.
Take a pick. Take it.
No.
Like that.
Agenda item C1, approval of tree removal services. Whoever's taking that up.
The removal of 6 trees in Commerce Park would greatly increase safety to pedestrians and our employees. Staff has obtained 4 quotes from tree service contractors to determine the price and availability of their services. BTC Contracting is recommended based on price and availability to remove 6 trees in Commerce Park for the total of $5,800. Staff reviewed the details of this purchase and recommends purchasing the service from BTC Contracting.
Who is BTC contracting?
Combo here. from
Right here in
Local.
town?
What's going on with the trees?
They're
Dead.
exceeded their life
Oh.
expectancy.
They're like
Very diplomatic
Big
way of
trees.
saying it.
300 years old.
Big tree.
Yes,
Okay.
We're in bad shape.
prioritizing the ones by the walking trail.
Oh, yeah, good.
We've actually
bad
had to put
look.
up some cones.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have some that are not.
That bad, eh?
Okay. When can they do that? Like ASAP?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Jay, and then also be sure to check their insurance.
I was just gonna
Yep.
say,
That
fully insured.
Yeah.
They're fully insured, in, either through Patty or whatever, just to make sure that they've got everything in place.
Okay. Okay. Resolutions before you, is there a motion?
So moved.
Can we make this like contingent on,
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Motion's been made, is there a second or not? If there's not a second, then. You want a second for discussion?
second for discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, I'm
No.
sorry.
No.
That occurrence is not, so can we make this contingent upon insurance?
Do we have to put that in the resolution?
We have before.
Okay, let's do that. then.
Maybe we should, eh?
All right, we'll withdraw that and then
No, we'll just amend the motion.
can I do the
You can make,
change in the resolution with the?
you can amend the resolution.
So I would just move it with the change in the resolution. So it's resolved that the Director of Operations is hereby authorized and directed to execute a purchase offer contingent on BTC contracting, providing the appropriate insurances, proof of the appropriate insurances for them to remove 6 trees in Commerce Park, a total cost not to exceed $5,800.
There's a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Oh, wait a minute.
Any other discussion?
A motion to amend, that was a motion to amend. Now, we're gonna vote on the amended motion.
Right.
You're gonna move the amended motion?
Yes, I would move
Move the amended
it
motion?
as proposed and amended.
Okay,
And I think I'm seconded that amended motion.
now we're good.
My $800 never looks so complicated.
Any discussion? Jen, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Melli?
Yes, Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Now do we have to vote on?
No, we
No.
did.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say.
All right, agenda item C2.
Okay. So approval of lease agreement with Hoosier Magnetics Incorporated. Staff has negotiated a new lease agreement with Hoosier Magnetics Incorporated for 4,920 square feet of warehousing space in Building 4 of the Commerce Park campus for a 4-month term commencing December 1st, 2022 and terminating March 31st, 2023 at a rate of $8.05 per square foot, equaling $3,350 per month, $13,202 for the 4-month period. Just a little background on this. So the last tenant that was in there, their long-term lease rate was $3.61. So just to give you a better feeling about a 4-month term, if it was 5.5 months of a short-term rate equals 1 year of a long-term rate. So they were in need of storage for raw material
For those 3 months,
process.
4 months.
Yeah.
Good. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Made,
Second.
seconded, thank you. Any further discussion? Jen, call the roll, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Melli?
Yes.
Ms. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes,
Ms. Whitman?
you. Agenda item C3.
Okay, approval of lease supplement number 11 with T-Base Communications USA Incorporated. Staff has negotiated lease supplement number 11 with T-Base Communications USA Incorporated for 1,061 square feet of warehousing space in Building 4 of the Commerce Park campus for a 27-month period commencing January 1st, 2023 and terminating March 31st, 2025 at a rate of $6.76 per square foot, equaling $597.70 per month, or $7,172.40 for the period of January 1st, 2023 through December 31st of 2023, and $7.03 per square foot, equaling $621.57 per month, $9,323.55 for the period January 1, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. All other terms and conditions of the original lease agreement shall remain in full force and effect and are hereby ratified and affirmed. The 27-month period puts this lease in line with their primary Building 6 lease so that they expire at the same date of March 31st, 2025. And the rates are 4% annual increase. What you'll see is that the first rate is for a 12-month period. The next increase is for a 15-month period.
So are they in 12?
So they are in,
4.
no, 12. I
Oh,
12 and now 4,
Yes.
right?
12, and they've been in 4. 4 is overflow storage
Okay,
for, yet again, raw materials.
I thought they were in 12.
Yeah.
All right, good. Is there a motion?
Also moved.
Motion's been made, second,
Second.
and seconded.
Just to make a note on that, Anthony got that because people that are in production, T-Base and the same with Hoosier, they want to make sure they've got product to keep going. So both of those right there, that's kind of a trend that we're exploring, but I just want to make you aware that those are two that came up because they're thinking ahead with the logistics and supply chain. So that's why the overflow for the Hoosiers, normally we didn't have anything at the port, he got Building 4. And then T-Base, when they went in last year, was they wanted to have enough supplies so that they didn't have to worry about interfering with their production schedule. So that's kind of a niche area that
Yeah.
our space is good for, and, you know, with flex and that. Nancy's well aware of that, but I just wanted to
Good.
bring that to your attention.
It's good planning on their part and ours. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Ben, call the roll, please.
Mr. Manelli?
Yes.
Ms. Pittman?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Agenda item D1.
The authority solicited bids for the purchase of a new 2023 Ford F-250 pickup truck with a V-plow to replace an aging vehicle at the airport as part of the Airport Security Grant, OSC contract number K007482. Staff has accepted a bid from Van Bortle Ford, New York State OGS mini bid number 7536 for the purchase of a 2023 Ford F-250 pickup truck and accessories for the total of $51,914.59. The airport security grant will cover 90% of the cost, while the authority will pay the remaining 10%. Airport security grant 90%, $46,723.13. OBPA portion 10%, $5,191.46, totaling in the $51,914.59. Staff reviewed the details of this purchase and recommends purchasing this vehicle from Van Bortle Ford.
Haven't we been trying to get this for years now?
What's that?
Haven't we been trying to get a replacement for years?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and then the security grant allowed that. The one thing, we will have to submit that for approval with, this is with New York State DOT. So before we sign any contract we need buy-off from them.
Okay.
So, but in order to get it in, we need to get going on.
Right. Their motion
I'll move it.
been made
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion? Ben, call the roll, please.
Ms. Pittman?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Manelli?
Yes.
Agenda item D2. Was there a D1?
That was the truck.
Yeah, that'll be the truck.
The truck was a D1?
Mhm.
Okay, D2.
D2 is the approval of the agreement with McFarland Johnson for the Augsburg International Airport. This all relates to what Jeff, when I had Jeff in there explaining everything there. So in connection with the terminal expansion of the Augsburg International Airport, McFarland Johnson has submitted an agreement to the authority to provide design, permitting, and bidding services associated with the terminal renovation, expansion, exterior improvements, and miscellaneous landside improvements at the Augsburg International Airport. The project scope includes the following: new gateway, welcome plaza, and over the roadway canopy, gateway, open courtyards feature consistent with the concept on the conceptual drawing layout, demolition and renovation of existing ticketing hall, counters, partition ceilings, and finishes consistent with proposed configuration, expansion of the airport pavement limits to accommodate new inbound baggage claim access and passenger ingress to the great room, expansion of the post-security passenger concourse, hold rooms, and restrooms, provisions for a concession, restaurant, and kitchen location, relocate passenger security screening checkpoint, renovation of existing space for the installation of new baggage claim and inbound bag distribution, and modification of utility service lines, water, sewer, natural gas, electric, telephone, and cable as needed. The cost to provide these services is $2,095,784. Airport projects over $100,000 require an independent fee estimate, IFE, be prepared, one of which will be performed in the very near future. Staff recommends approval of this agreement with McFarland Johnson.
The IFE is a resolution coming up.
That is under such matters. I finally got that in there, but at the time I wrote this, I wasn't sure we'd have an IFE.
Oh, okay.
board, so I just got that today, so.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Dave, anything? Okay, wants to say something. Anything, Dave?
Nope, I'm good.
Can I just ask, where does the $2 million come from? Like, is that
It comes out of the
revenue we
grant.
have, that comes out of the grant?
Yes.
Okay. And is that a pretty standard
Well, the
ratio of,
yes, percentage wise,
Yeah.
out of a project,
yeah,
that was, I want to say, yes, that percentage out of the whole 20, it's roughly 10% of that for that. And generally they run 8 to 12
okay,
for that. The IFE will be one that they have to come within a certain percentage. I think it's 10% of what they'll estimate it at. And that has to be submitted to the FAA. They need to have that to justify. And the same goes with New York State. New York State doesn't require an IFE, but because the FAA is involved, we've got to do this.
so can you explain the IFE to me? I know it's a federal resolution, but it's mentioned in this just because I don't even know what that means.
Okay, I can read from, basically, the FAA and the DOT will reimburse, let's see. Anything over $100,000, you have to get a firm that's familiar with that kind of work. They take a look at the scope that Garland does. There you go. They'll take a look at that and then they'll do their own estimate. And it's to another way of checking the rates and how they look at it. Sometimes you'll be out of whack there, and then you'll have to, it helps us and it helps the FAA just keeping costs in line when it comes to design services.
Okay, and when you say cost, is that the cost of the 21.3 million or is that the cost of the 2 million?
It's the cost of all the design work.
Okay.
With that, everything involved in that. And a lot of them have rate sheets and they're published ahead of time, so they can't just change them and blow them up for that. So in that world, especially with the DOT, they're very familiar with that. The same with the airport work.
Okay.
So we'll rely on, and that's will be the other such matter one with the IFE will tell us whether we're in line.
Okay, and what happens if you're not? Like if we approve it and then the IFE comes in and it's way above, well, this says not to exceed, but how does that work?
Well, you'll have to get an opinion from the DOT or the FAA too, because that doesn't necessarily mean the people you hire doesn't necessarily mean they're correct either.
Right.
So you have.
Might be another
Yeah.
third party.
Yeah. And they may have their own explanations of why they're either higher or lower of how they see it.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
Steve, was there an original amount in the grant in that regard?
Well,
When we wrote the grant, requested the grant, was that
Was there
2
an
million
original?
estimate in there?
yeah, I believe, well, I don't want to give away everything. Well, McFarland knows it anyway, but we did put in, I think, a little over 3 million for construction inspection and design work. And out of that 22 million, that was part of our budget.
So the thought is, they already have 2 million for the design, and he talked about the construction inspection. So let's keep in mind what our estimate was for those two items combined out of the 21 million. Right?
Yeah.
That's the way I see it, Dave. And they know, I mean, they
They
know,
did our budget. I mean,
They're going to use it.
yeah, but you say that and I understand. I'm not looking for any extra charges in this, like we've had in other engineering and projects. Not in this, because this isn't the first time they've been through this, and they're doing it in other places. So I'm hoping in the end, because I won't be very happy with that if that happens.
We did put in for contingencies, you have to in every project. So
Right.
if you run the core project correctly and you bring it in under budget, you shouldn't have to touch those contingencies. So at the end, sometimes you get bells and whistles saying, let's, do we want to turn this money back into the FAA or the DOT? Let's spend it. We did well. Let's spend it on some things that are nice to have with that. But there is a contingency in there. So I know where you're coming from, but there's going to be things that that they aren't going to, the DOT or the FAA is going to pull me up more money. They're going to say that's going to be in the OBPA. So we have to be right on top of that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not an engineer, but I know trees grow.
Well, especially seeing that when we originally did the budget, the costs were not the same as they are now. I think that's gonna have to be forever in our mind. because we
Yes.
that We can't really afford
Gonna
it.
be substantial.
And we'll,
No, we can't.
and that-
Exactly.
just, we've had discussions and we're going to look at, alternatives that will still serve the purpose, that don't degrade the quality of the project. Just because we do have a little more flexibility in that.
Yeah.
But there'll be like value engineering on a lot of things, just so that we could say in a spec, we can go with this rather than that for
Right.
pricing.
As long as, like you said, the quality is not, because going through a capital project right now and then having things that the lead time was so far out on,
Mhm.
that we substituted and some of those substitutions.
And there'll be things that are visual that we won't compromise on.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Resolution is before you. Is there a motion? 2,095,000.
We haven't.
I think there
We made the motion.
You made the motion, thank
Discussion,
you.
We just need to vote.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Burns?
Oh, I'm Mike Burr. Wow. Yes.
Ms. Winton?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Manelli?
Yes.
Ms. Hickman?
Yes.
Copy them.
Not asking you to like it, sir.
Oh, good. That's good. Agenda item E1.
The approval of the line of credit with Tompkins Community Bank. Staff is negotiating a line of credit with Tompkins Community Bank to manage the payments for equipment upgrades for the railway and port as provided in the US DOT Chrissy grant. We are getting 80% back, up to $800,000. But in order to pay the companies, we need a line of credit to just be able to pay them. We get the 80% back, that goes back on the line, and we put in our 20%. And that's what that whole resolution says. Steve, myself, and Sam have the right to talk with the bank, to sign any paperwork. This line of credit is collateralized with the equipment itself until all of the equipment is purchased and paid off.
4 different items.
4 different items. We have actually paid ourselves due to the fact that this line still isn't done. We have actually paid the first 2 vendors half of what is owed out of our own pocket. Not pretty.
I know.
That,
I know.
So we're just waiting for the reimbursement of that, but the line will allow us to then pay off the balance to the vendors. And then we don't have another piece of equipment again until probably April or May of next year.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion? Jen, call the roll, please.
Ms. Winton?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Manelli?
Yes.
Ms. Hickman?
yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes. Right, that was one. That was E1, no F,
No,
What did you?
nothing going on with the railroads?
No?
Bridges rehabbed yet?
No.
Okay, agenda item G1.
Approval of the independent fee estimate agreement with BCA Architect Engineers. McFarland Johnson, the OGS airport consultant, has presented a scope of services agreement to complete the design work for the terminal renovation expansion exterior improvements project at the Ogdensburg International Airport for a fee of $2,095,784. Before the FAA will approve the design scope services, the OBPA is required to hire an engineering firm familiar with airport work to do an independent fee estimate of the proposed design work. The authority sought IFE proposals from engineering firms familiar with airport work. 2 firms were contacted for this work, Becerra Associates of Rochester, New York, and BCA Architect Engineers of Watertown, New York. BCA was the only firm that submitted a proposal for a fee of $5,000 to complete the IFE. The FAA and the New York State DOT will reimburse the authority for 97.5% of this cost. The cost of the IFE to the authority will be $125. Staff recommends the following resolution for approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Made, second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? Jen, call the roll, please.
Mr. Manelli?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes,
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
is that it?
That is it, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing else?
No need for an executive session.
Concluding comments from anyone online? Any board members or staff? Did, what's his name from Watertown Times ever,
Andy,
Andy ever get on?
not that I know.
We better anticipate a
Yeah,
call.
I can do things through email or over the phone.
Okay. I have a question before we're done. Crack ceiling at the airport, is that this coming year?
I'm not sure whether it was written up in the report or not.
Stumped you, eh?
It's what?
Crack ceiling at the airport, the runway.
Don't tell.
Don't ask.
Don't.
I thought it was.
Like community garage.
Teachers, eh?
We'll look into that.
Because there is now a local firm that does that sort of thing,
I know.
has the equipment.
It's the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
didn't know-
upgraded last year,
Yes,
and I don't think we had to do it last year, but he's got, yes, you mentioned, we've talked about that, because I
Okay.
heard that.
all right.
That would be good.
I didn't know if it was, if it was 2023 or not.
Okay.
He-
I don't think we
He's
did it
interested.
last year. No,
I don't think we did it.
No, that would have,
I know how much we paid
we did
the
that.
time before,
Excuse me, last-
so we can
It's been a
save money and do
couple
it
years, hasn't
local.
I think
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Do they come from Watertown also?
No, wasn't
Oh, they
Watertown, it was
wondered,
further
yeah, it
away.
was that,
Was it Utica or something?
yeah,
I thought it was Utica.
I can't think of the name of the company, but yeah.
All right, next meeting date, proposed January 12th, that's would be our annual meeting. Oh, shoot. I have to name a nominating committee.
Is that Chris usually do
that?
You. That's you too.
He's not here.
I can't meet on the 12th, but that doesn't matter, right? Like I just won't be here. Just let you know. In case you were asking for consensus.
It is, I am. But before we do that, I will appoint Mr. Coffin as the chair of the nominating committee. And he may appoint any other members he sees fit to accomplish his recommendation. For Chris. So you can't make the 12th, anybody
No,
else?
I can't.
As long as it's 5 o'clock, I'm fine.
You're good too?
Sounds
Dave?
good.
I'm good.
Oh,
Wow.
geez.
Yay.
All we
I'll
need
miss
now is
everybody.
Tony and Chris. You do it online?
No,
Oh, you be out of the country?
I'm going to be in a pickleball tournament.
Oh,
I'll be on the court. Sorry, Sam.
yeah, I get it. If it was a hockey game, I'm with you. All right, so let's
you
do that. The 12th of January, 5 PM. The nominating committee will report. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Made, seconded?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? We stand adjourned at 7:20.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice holiday.
You too.